Alright, hey there guys and welcome back. Gonna be doing as many deck profiles as I can with rendering times and everything to get you guys some info on this, and the timer might be off on some of the stuff because this one actually there was this horrible buzzing noise in the beginning, so I had to I'm redoing the voiceover and watching the video footage again. So yeah, we're gonna be trying to get into a lot of things. So here we go. This is a soldier deck. This is the one that I like the most. The rest of them shouldn't be like this. And then we got 3 slave drivers to start off, which you copy a bronze card that they start with in their deck, which is really interesting, really strong. He can end up netting you a lot of value, and you can basically steal their archetype against them. Then we got the slave infantry, spawn this on your melee, siege, and support row, and he goes well with the 8 power card that we'll get into in a minute, because if you get a lot of those out, you can boost them up with that card, the sentry, and it just ends up being ridiculous how much value these cards can give you. So I took basically all the good value cards, except for the Witcher card, and put them together. So next we got Sentry. Standard Bear, which you get to, anytime you play a soldier, you boost them up by another ally up by 2, and they're basically all soldiers except for that one officer, the slave guy, so that works out really good. And then we got Forticus, which lets you grab a random card from their deck. I basically put that in because it goes well with slave drivers and stealing their archetype and using it against them, so I like that card. Then next up we got Marching Orders, which is always going to grab you your slave driver or your slave infantry, which can get you a lot of value for sure, because those are really nice cards to grab. Then I got Decoy, so you can reapply the sentry or the slave driver or even the slave infantry. All those 3 of those plays can add up to a ton of value in this deck. And then we got Joam de Witt, of course, because Nilfgaard, Joam de Witt's great. So that card works out pretty well. Grabs you the top card, boosts it by 10. You're pretty much always getting value. Put in a Cynthia because all disloyal units are 13 power now. And Cynthia can usually hit a pretty high target. So she'll get you some nice value. Then we got August, lock 2 units. I like locks. It's double lock. It works out really well. So that's why she's there. Then Renew. Well, I got Igni, Letho, and Vilkforts, so they work out really well. That Renew works out really well on all of them. And we got Letho Kingslayer, who lets you destroy either an enemy leader, which can be really good, or play a silver tactics card from your deck, bronze or silver. And I mean, we got 3 silver tactic cards, so that works out really well. The Decoy, the Marching Orders, and the Forticus, which I really like that. And then with Igni, there's a lot of big units out right now, so Igni usually nets you a lot of value. I mean, it killed a dragon with like 28 power, and that Consume guy was kind of like, oh, well, that sucks. So Igni's a great tech card right now. Then Vilkforts, I mean, his first ability is alright, but the second ability, you can burn a slave driver or one of the slave infantries you got to get another unit out, and that works out really well and can end up netting you a lot of value. So that's about it for that. We'll get in a couple games now and try to do commentary over it, I guess, because I am not putting that buzzing sound into the actual video. So I'm just gonna commentate over it, I guess. See how this goes. See you guys there. Alright, first game was up against Usurper, which this one's pretty cool, but yeah, Usurper is one of the good leaders, I thought, and can actually net you a decent amount of value if you get a good thing. I forget what he ends up getting, but I end up throwing back, I think, the silver, pretty sure, Joam de Witt, because I wanted to try to get like a sentry, another sentry or slave driver or something. Yeah, and then I got a slave infantry. Was pretty happy with that. But I kind of wanted another sentry too. But I ended up keeping that, it looks like, so we'll go with that. Yeah, this guy ended up running those 7 power cards, which are totally different now. Because, like, now whenever you play an ally, it boosts itself by 1, which is pretty good. Because in this type of deck, at least, he was sort of running the same type of deck as me. But I like my addition of the bear more, because it ends up netting me more value. So here I played the slave driver, because I wanted to see if he was running my type of deck. Turns out he was. I decided to go up, grab this slave infantry instead of the 7 power, because I figured, well, if he's running the same type of deck as me, then if I have more slave infantries than him, I'm going to be able to win because my sentries are going to net me more value than him. He ends up playing another one of those, so I dropped my standard bearer because I thought I'd be safe, but this guy actually runs muzzle, and he muzzles it away from me. Oh man, that's so sad. Alright, then we got another slave infantry. Because at this point I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stack out my slave infantries. So that way I can just play my sentry and overpower him if he tries to pass me. This deck, this Nilfgaard soldier deck, is actually really fun. And his version isn't too bad either, I mean. But I like mine more because the bears are really nice. Maybe the 8 power units can come out. But I mean, if they're playing anything with 3 power, it's definitely worth it to run that. He ends up stealing my slave infantries with his, because that thing spawns him that. And then he gets some value out of my standard bear because he muzzled it. So I end up stealing that card back because I definitely want as many of those as I can on my side. Looks like I'm pretty far behind right now. I mean, I have 6 of those out, so that's a 20 power card in my hand. So I could pass him with 1 card easy. I forget what he plays here. His version, those 7 powers, maybe I'd take out the 8 power and add in those 7 powers. That might be pretty good actually now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, the Elba cavalries. And take out the 8 power stealing unit. Because if you don't have I have no way to damage units in this deck really. So I can't really make him have a 3 power unit unless they actually play a 3 power unit. He ends up going with the Zuciper here, which gives my Elba guy a point, because it counts as summoning on my side of the field. And I was trying to hold on to 2 slave infantries because I didn't want to drop them. And he gets a Herald the Cripple out of this for a 19 value card. Oh, and he got really unlucky with the bounces and it didn't kill either of my slave infantries, which worked out pretty well for me. So I ended up going with marching orders to get another slave driver. And grab another slave infantry out of that. Because now I'm like, well, I have 9 of these out, so yeah, my thing's going to be a 26 power play. So as long as I stay within 26 points of him, I can win it with 1 card, which is what I was trying to do, was try to keep myself within enough points so I could just drop that 8 power card and take the round if he passed me at any point. Alright, he ends up going with Overdose here. Kills off one of the slave infantries with that. At this point I was like, ugh. I wanted to decoy something. I was debating on the slave driver or the slave infantry for guaranteed value. But I think I ended up going with, I ended up going with Letho. And I grabbed the Portcullis because I knew he ran cards just like me, so I figured I'd get something good out of it. I mean, any of those choices, I ended up going with that because, hey, more slave infantries. So at this point I had 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 out, so my sentry would net me 30 points of value. End up dropping my sentry here. Boost them all up by 2. because I was like, oh, I need to keep myself within one card of being able to win. He plays another slave infantry, so I'm like, okay, he has two of them. Here goes two of them. And he gets a pretty good boost out of that. So I end up dropping my leader. And I think I grabbed slave driver here. Yeah. I grabbed slave driver because I was thinking, oh, maybe I can get a sentry from him, which I did. So I got another huge boost here, which ended up putting me pretty far ahead. I knew he had sentries too, so he gets a little bit of a boost, but not nearly as much as me. And I had a decoy still. And here I wanted to play, I played a slave driver, or slave infantry, because I figured, well, this will keep me ahead just in case he passes, so that way I don't have to use my decoy unless I have to. Because I kind of wanted to hold on to it till for the next round if I could. But turns out I couldn't, because at this point I was almost 20 points behind. So I ended up decoying my sentry here. And yeah, got ridiculous amount of value out of this. Come on, me, drop it. There we go. At this point, I'm like, well, I'm 14 points ahead. So, I mean, I can pretty much, if he plays his last card, somehow gets 14 points out of it, then I can play my last card. And I'll still be able to pass him. Even with him stealing my bear, I was kind of upset about that. So I won round one. Then we started up round two. And I ended up throwing AUKUS back because I was like, oh, he doesn't run really much for me to AUKUS, and I was trying to get my other sentry. I just passed here because I was like, this hand is alright, but I can easily get one more card advantage and have double final say. So I'd rather go for that. At this point, I figured I pretty much had him because I had a slave infantry and a way to steal his slave infantry. I knew he only had like one left. And he ends up playing Polist, and he pulls out one of his slave infantries with it. Now at this point I was like, I forgot that card creates a copy instead of like playing it from your deck, so I thought he had no more left. I was like, oh, I definitely got this now. But no, it creates a copy. Then I got Joam de Witt. I was like, oh, that's really good. Well, I'm throwing Igni back because Igni is going to be useless. I got a Cynthia. So I was hoping maybe Joam de Witt gives me a sentry. Ends up dropping his alchemist to grab another poultist, so we can get out some more slave infantries. Since it creates copies at this point, I was like, oh yeah, it creates a copy, not pulls it from your deck. So I ended up stealing one of them instead of playing my Cynthia because I didn't want him dropping a sentry right away and get more value out of that. He plays Nilfgaard, grabs the top card of his deck, and boost, and it's a sentry. So I played my Cynthia, see that he has a sentry left, I'm like, oh, well, I win. So I played my slave infantry first just in case I got a sentry from my Joam de Witt, so that would get me more value. And I forget what I get with my Joe. It wasn't a sentry. Oh yeah, it was my standard bear. I was like, oh, but I still won it. So that game turned out pretty well. Then we'll get into game 2 next. And this is the only time I'm going to be narrating them like this. Unless you guys rather prefer it this way. Alright, here we go into what was the next one. It was Henselt. And I ended up with what I thought was a decent hand. Like, I threw back a standard bear because I was kind of hoping for like another slave infantry or another sentry. And I got a decoy. I was like, well, that's another slave infantry, so that's not too bad. And I figured I was facing like a machine type deck, so I threw back AUKUS. And I had slave driver too, and I was like, ah, that's good enough. So played the slave driver. Ended up stealing his siege tower, of course, because that was like the best choice that I could have grabbed. The other ones do damage. And then I realized what I was facing. Oh no, not yet. He played that guy to get crewman out, which isn't too bad. Now that they buffed it up to 9, that's pretty good. So I ended up playing him so I could start boosting him off of my soldiers. Every time I play a soldier, I could start getting some boosts. And yeah, he played Winch and got his siege tower. And I was like, well, crap. I would have passed if, like, I knew he had to play one more card. But I knew at this point I was already screwed. Because I was like, okay, I'll drop slave infantry, I guess. I was actually debating on what to play. Because I knew I'd have to get whatever in the next card. Win it in the next card. Because, like, I knew what he was going to do. He was going to grab those reinforced siege towers with his Hensel, get 3 more of them. That dumb combo that if you get lucky enough on your winch, you can pull it off. Yeah, you can see how devastating it is here. Because you can't keep up with that. Like, he grabs 2 siege towers, 3 siege towers. He didn't even use it to its full potential. Because, like, he could have got 2 more power out of that. And I was like, really? Okay. So I figured, oh, whatever. I'll take the first round. I'll try to go 2 cards down and take the first round. Since they usually plan on shutting you out with that combo. Which works pretty well. I mean, like, going 2 cards down is never a good thing. Especially not with this type of deck, so I would not suggest it. And I was figuring, I guess I'll try to fight it with 2 cards down and see what type of thing I can pull off. So of course he ends up passing me because he has 60 freaking points in 3 turns. Which is ridiculous. That's 20 points a turn, so I was like, okay, I'll play Igni. And yeah, I'll take round 1. Because, yeah, that's just dumb. That is just dumb. Like, how do you fight that? Without going 2 cards down. I even pulled off a decent Igni, a 19 value Igni, and it just got me 1 point ahead after I had to go 2 cards down. Like, you cannot fight that winch into a tower. Into Hensel. It's ridiculous. At this point, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to win this, because... yeah. I knew he had all those ballistas and everything, which do good against doing damage with units around the same power. And all my units have around the same power, and I knew my 8 powers that steal a 3 power unit were pretty dead against this type of deck, which is why I'm thinking about taking them out for the 7 power unit that boosts itself by 1 every time you play a unit, so I think that'll be a lot better card in this type of deck. I mean, it's nice when you get the 14 value out of it, it's definitely really good, but doesn't work out so well. I ended up grabbing Joam DeWitt, even though I knew he'd grab me this, because it was the biggest play I could make. Which ended up only being an 18 value play. Which isn't the greatest, but I was trying to force him down some cards, because he already had 2 card advantage from me going 2 cards down. And even if I passed there, like, I would have ended up in the same situation if I just passed when he forced me out of round 1 like that. Because after he dropped those siege towers, if I passed, he would have dried past me round 2, and I'd be 2 cards down in round 3. Like, there is no way for... I don't know how to deal with that. But I guess they won't get it every time. So I end up passing here because I'm like, okay, he's going to have to spend 1 more card. I was kind of hoping to draw into more slave inventories and more towers. I knew he just had to drop 1 machine to take the round. Alright, he passes me here. And I got another tower, so I was like, oh, that's cool. But I only had 1 slave driver. Then I was like, oh, I have a decoy, so I can technically get 6 of them out. Just I was hoping I would be able to keep them around with like ballistas and stuff. And yeah, Radovid a small marsh resurrects at the end of the turn now, which is why I was hovering over him, because I was confused why he came out at the end of the turn. Which is kind of nice, because like you can kill him, and then they can't re-res him or use his ability after you kill him for one turn. So like if you have weather, you could permanently keep him off the board, I think, now. So I ended up playing Slave Infantry after my bearer. Of course, I got my bearer out first so I could get some value out of him. Plays, yeah. That and ends up giving me his disloyal unit with 2 more value on it. I was like, oh, I might have a chance here. Even though he has like double final say. I figured he did that because he has Scorch. So I was thinking about decoying it, but I was going to wait a minute. Then I ended up going with my Slave Infantry. So like, I need to get more of these guys out and just count on the value. If he has Scorch, it's going to keep me safe from the Scorch hurting the rest of my units that are going to end up around the same power. He ends up playing Royal Decree, grabs out his dual unit, and just kills off that 15 power with that. I was like, oh, well, he got a lot of value out of that card. So then I was kind of scared that he still had the Scorch. So I ended up playing Vilkforge, hoping to get another one of those guys out of it, and I get a Renew and into Igni. I was like, really? He had 22 power on the board. He was so close to ending up with 25. I guess I should have known it was one of the 10 cards left in my deck, so I should have just waited till he had 25 value on the board, so I could have at least gotten something out of it. So I ended up playing Sentry here, because I have a bunch of Sentries and 4 of those guys. So Sentry's like a 16 power bronze for me, and an 18 with Bear. But I figured he had Scorch or the Dragon or something, so I was like, he's probably got this anyway. Elzer's Thunder ends up killing off one of those guys, so we don't get as much value out of him now. So this brings it to a 16 power play every turn, which I was thinking is pretty good considering that I'm 7 points ahead already. So I was thinking I might still have this. Because that Soldier is still a 10 power card in my hand, even though I know he's not going to have anything with 3 power less to steal. Ends up playing Ballista. And I'm looking at the power level, I'm like, ugh. I'm just dropping him. I know I'm never going to get any value out of it, but I was trying to keep myself safe from Scorch range. So I was thinking maybe if he hit him with the ballistas again, then I'd be able to keep it so his 9 power would end up getting the damage. But he didn't even have Scorch. So I played my last Sentry, give myself that last boost. This ends up putting me 19 points ahead. So I'm like, he has 2 cards, he probably has it. And he drops Commander's Horn. And I was like, oh, yeah, he has it with 1 card. So, yeah, it was kind of close, but that winch play at the beginning, like, I still don't know how to deal with that. Unless you got a hot, heavy tempo deck. This deck will not do good against that winch play. But yeah, that was the 2 games, guys. I only recorded them, like, did the voiceover thing like this because I want to get this video out, but didn't have time to convert all the stuff again because I'm using the screen capture program and everything. So the rest of the decks should be all set, and yeah, the normal way that it's done. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, have a good one.